Hello everyone, my name is Balaj. Welcome to this video. Quickly, I just wanted to say that in the videos on my channel, I talk about attention, peace, and the doom scrolling nature of our current generation. And I make videos to help stop that. And today I wanted to talk about the attention crisis that we have in our modern age. Now, I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time that you did absolutely nothing? And what I mean by that is no phone, no music, no screens, no stimulation, no distractions whatsoever. And the reason why you cannot focus actually has nothing to do with laziness, discipline, or motivation. The reason why you cannot focus is because everything is much more desirable than work for you. And work feels unbearably boring to you because your brain has been accustomed to constantly being entertained every single second. Now, in this video, I'm going to be covering the topics that relate to this, as well as how we can actually fix this and bypass this and actually make work more attractive than anything else. Now, the reason why you can't lock in is your work is actually competing with everything else. So that's short form videos, your notifications, music, messages, games, and stuff like that. Now, I'm sure this speaks to a lot of you as well as myself. You sit down to work, but within minutes, you are on your phone checking if you got a notification, you are changing the song, you're getting water, or you're looking into something completely unrelated. Your attention is cut up into task switching and you aren't able to focus on one specific task. And the reason why that is the task of work is competing against things that are much more desirable, much easier, and faster in giving you a reward. Now, looking at an ordinary day, every quiet moment that we get usually gets filled by one of these things. So either like our phones when we wake up, videos while we're eating, music while we're commuting to work, scrolling while we're waiting or in an elevator, and even more scrolling before we go to bed. So we are constantly bombarded with palatable information and pleasure. And we never allow ourselves to experience an empty moment anymore. And the second life becomes quiet and we instinctively reach for something. Eventually, the silence actually begins to feel very, very uncomfortable. And the problem isn't really boredom. We just made boredom impossible and very easy to avoid. When we read things like books, they feel very slow. Work feels very painful and dragged out. Walks feel boring. Conversations feel uneventful and unstimulating. And silence feels completely uncomfortable. And it's not that life has become boring. It might be because we're less sensitive to ordinary experiences because we are constantly consuming intense stimulation. And when everything has to entertain you, meaningful work starts to feel unbearable and impossible to focus on. Now, what you actually want, you don't need to be, and you shouldn't be wanting to be more productive. You want freedom from this resistance, right? So you want to work without wanting to escape into another world. You want to read without checking your phone, and you want to create without being validated, like getting in immediate validation. And you want to stay focused when things become difficult. Now, most people say they want focus, but what they really want is to stop fighting themselves every time they sit down to do something important and to work on something boring. Now, the cost of constant stimulation has cost us a lot. Everything meaningful now requires a lot of patience and a lot of effort. So learning requires confusion, creating requires uncertainty, business requires delayed results, relationships require presence, and growth requires discomfort. And when you're constantly escaping boredom, you actually lose the ability to remain with anything that does not immediately reward you. But almost everything meaningful requires you to remain without getting a reward. And we've kind of trained ourselves to desire and need instant reward, which is why everything feels so difficult and boring. Now, your brain starts asking the wrong question, right? The way we've rewired ourselves. It's not, is this important anymore? It's, is this stimulating enough? Is this stimulating enough for me to keep going with this to get a reward? And when the answer is no, we switch tasks and our attention starts to seek for an exit because it starts to feel uncomfortable. You're going to reach for your phone, open another tab, or find something easier to do. That distraction becomes very, very automatic for us. I want you to ask yourself, what do I reach for when life becomes quiet? Am I avoiding a task or avoiding boredom? Am I choosing what matters or reacting to stimulation? Now, you don't need to necessarily answer these questions immediately. You might need enough silence to notice how your mind behaves when it is no longer being entertained. Now, here's a little technique that I started doing to actually combat this. And this is something that I want you to try and adopt as well. It's called stimulus deprivation. Now, what it basically is a period of time that before you start working reduces the amount of stimulus that you're putting into yourself. So what that actually looks like is you sit for 10 to 30 minutes without your phone, without music, without screens, without pacing, and you're just going to be staring at a blank wall. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but you're going to want to hear why this is so important for us now. This is something, yeah, as I've said, I've been experimenting with, and you pretty much remove all sources of stimulation and allow yourself to become extremely bored. Now, what you will notice when you try this is your mind will immediately want to escape from this because this is going to be very painful for it, especially because it's been trained to seek immediate pleasure and entertainment. Now, your mind will try to get you to check your phone, get some water, change positions, respond to that message, or literally anything. And at first, it will feel stupid. It will feel very pointless. And your mind will begin to suggest alternatives. You may also suddenly remember 10 different things that need to be done immediately. Now, what I want you to do to actually make this work is do not fight this boredom. You're going to sit with it. Notice the urge. Do not react to it. Remain still and allow that boredom to manifest. Allow that boredom to build up. This discomfort is actually part of the experiment. You are observing how dependent your mind is on this constant input without immediately obeying the urge to escape. And the reason why this actually works is the task that was initially boring to you becomes much more stimulating than nothing. So, to give you an example, before, work versus your phone wins every single time because it instantly rewards your brain and it instantly gives you pleasure versus the work. Now that we take the phone away and we put in this wall staring, if you compare the two, staring at a blank wall versus doing work becomes much more pleasurable. It becomes much more attractive for your brain to do because it gives more stimulus than just looking at a blank wall. And the work itself hasn't actually changed. What changed is the comparison and the environment that you put yourself into. So at this point, writing, studying, or editing suddenly becomes so much more interesting and more stimulating than just staring at a wall, which is why I like to implement this technique. And especially if you have ADHD, this is something that would be extremely useful for you to do if you are having trouble with sitting still and working on something. And the great thing is about it is you're not forcing productivity by doing this. You are just making productivity itself attractive, because boredom actually lowers the competition of dopamine, and ordinary tasks regain their texture, their feel, and your attention becomes more sensitive. You've lowered your threshold to be engaged, and beginning to work feels much easier. So instead of forcing yourself to work through sheer discipline, you allow boredom to make the work feel desirable, and the task becomes a form of relief from this discomfort. But this is not a dopamine detox, because dopamine is not the enemy. It's not something that you can avoid, and it's not something I'm recommending you to avoid. It's not about, removing all pleasures, deleting every single app, becoming a monk, meditating all day, and avoiding entertainment forever. The term dopamine deprivation makes for a strong, I guess, idea and a strong name for this concept, but this is not about literally eliminating dopamine. It's just reducing your sensitivity, or increasing your sensitivity, as I should say. Now, here's the interesting thing. So, the shift between this: focus may not need to be forced. It may return when the distraction is removed. Focus is not something you need to endlessly chase through productivity apps, supplements, and complicated routines. You can do something simple as just staring at a wall. And focus is naturally something that returns to your mind when the entertainment escape is no longer available. So, yeah, this is what I want you to try. This is the experiment that I want you to do before your next session of work. Put your phone in a completely different room. Stare at a wall for 10 to 20 minutes and let yourself become bored, and sit with that boredom and allow yourself to feel discomfort, but just get through it. It's really unbearable, but trust me, get through it and begin one focused task with a end goal. So don't just say, I'm going to study. Just say you are going to finish this paper, or you're going to finish this amount of exercises for this particular subject. And set a timer for 45 to 60 minutes of work. And what you will notice that will happen is you will not want to, you'll have no desire to look away from the work. You don't want to switch tasks because you are so engaged in the work. Now, I don't want you to experience, I don't want you to expect the experience to feel peaceful and comfortable. It will feel very frustrating. It will feel unbearable at first. And that reaction shows you exactly why focus has been so difficult for us nowadays. I want you to also pay attention to what you notice. You should pay attention to how quickly you reach for your phone, how uncomfortable silence feels, how often you seek stimulation, and how much easier work will feel after this experiment. And even if it does not completely transform your productivity, the experiment can still teach you something about your attention. Now, what I want you to take away from this video is sometimes the answer is not doing more. Sometimes the answer is just removing more. So the next time that you cannot begin, do not immediately search for a new productivity technique or like a complicated routine. Just try removing the distraction and allow yourself to experience boredom without escaping it. So In summary, the takeaway from this video is you're going to be wanting to remove stimulation to focus. So sit with yourself and sit with boredom for 10 to 15 minutes and make work more attractive by sitting with the silence, being in an unbearable state of discomfort for an X amount of time. And as always, thank you so much for watching. If you like this kind of video, don't forget to subscribe. Just drop a comment if you want me to go through something else as well in future videos. And thank you so much for watching.